Laura. Welcome to the Stellar Work podcast. So glad you're here.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Awesome. I wanted to make an episode with you about how to measure engineering teams because right now, managing engineering teams has never been more Wild West, it seems. So it's really good to have you here. But before we dig into that, maybe we could start off with a quick introduction.
Sure. My name's Laura Tacho, as we know each other already, but I work at AWS. I am a Senior Principal Technologist working on developer experience. And before AWS, I was CTO at a company called DX, which is a engineering intelligence platform, basically taking in metrics from workflow tools, from developer experience surveys, figuring out how to measure the efficiency of engineering organizations. I've worked on this problem of measuring developer productivity.
By the way, been a big fan of DX, been reading articles, like just consuming everything that people put out there.
It's a great product. It's a great product. I'm really proud of what the team built there. I had been working on developer productivity, for 15 years, really, because I have been always working in developer tools. But it seemed like developer productivity really got a spotlight in around 2022, 2023. Things started to pick up as we got into this kind of efficiency, post-ZIRP, macroeconomic climate. And then AI certainly didn't make things any less complicated.
Yeah, true. So how did AI affect engineering teams and developer experience?
I was sort of right in the middle of this. And so I'll talk a bit about how I perceived this to happen. Okay, so I have been working 15 years. I was working on public cloud offering. I worked on CI/CD. Then I was working on Docker tooling, working on CI/CD again, always working on the infrastructure side. That's my background in engineering. And then I started to get a little bit more interested in helping engineering leaders advocate for budget for these kind of tools. Platform engineering became a word that we started using maybe instead of DevOps in some circles. And after a while, this was around 2021, I started getting a lot of interest in, I just don't understand how to talk about the achievements of my team or talk about our efficiency. And I'm starting to get more questions about it. So I really started focusing on this. And then we had a lot of push toward efficiency. We had the end of ZIRP, so money was not zero interest anymore. Money wasn't free.
I think even Mark Zuckerberg pointed out like the year of efficiency for Meta at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, it was kind of the year of efficiency in a lot of avenues, like a lot of venues other than just tech, because we had also like the Department of Government Efficiency in the USA and lots of other things. So there was definitely this kind of focus on becoming more lean and eliminating maybe middle management or doing some other techniques. This was like the fire was starting, right, with this like push to efficiency. And then from where I was sitting, AI just came in like a comet and just ignited this huge fire. It collided into the engineering world like at exactly the right moment where engineering leaders were super hungry and business leaders were super hungry for something that could make them more efficient.
Yep.
And it was like the most fertile ground for all of these claims of 10x productivity. Everything is going to be, replace engineers with AI. All these really kind of, now we can look and say ridiculous claims, but at the time they were so enticing.
And I assume as well as that when companies started rehiring after the COVID virus, they kind of overhired, and now they were actively looking for a reason to reduce the workforce.
Yeah.
And that comment that just hit the right spot, I think.
Yeah, we did. We kind of backed ourselves into a corner as an industry because the economy was so up and down with COVID, and then we had layoffs, and then we overhired expecting this big bounce back, which didn't happen. And then we were left with all of this staff, and it was just kind of a lot of factors coming together. And then the promise of 10x productivity from an individual contributor is one that's going to get every CEO and CFO to kind of bend their ear and be interested in hearing more, and then want to know why they don't have it yet.
So when we look at the data, what has been visible to you? What has actually changed? What metrics did actually change once, let's say, the big tech companies moved more into AI and started really having more elaborate ways of using it?
The one thing that I can say for sure is that teams from startups to enterprise teams are writing a lot more code.
Okay,
So
so just the lines per.
lines of code, volume of code has increased. I think the number it's 17.3x according to one study, one academic paper that recently came out. So like 17 times more source code.
Mhm.
And also PRs are getting much bigger. So any change request, it's almost doubled in size according to a few independent studies, one from DX, I think from Jellyfish, and there's a couple other of these software engineering intelligence tools that look at lines of code from GitHub data. So we know that there's definitely more code. We know that the change sets are bigger. But when it comes to releases or bottom line impact on revenue, there are fewer companies that have been able to scale the outcomes as fast as we've scaled generating code. We're just not quite there yet. We're very much at the bottom of this J curve
Mhm.
where things are maybe a little bit worse before they get better, but the future is not evenly distributed.
Yeah.
And so we see organizations experiencing this really differently.
It's kind of odd, isn't it? The companies that we look at when we think of, oh, AI helps us to get so much more output out. Those are like Anthropic or maybe OpenAI. When we say they know how to use this stuff,
Mhm.
and they ship like every day. You could just update your Claude interface. You could update your app almost every day,
Mhm.
right? So they should really know it. And we see their revenue increasing. But how do we know it's actually like from them making the best use out of their tool and really something that we can take away as developers working in other companies? Or whether it's just, well, they sell a product everyone wants to buy anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, what I am really interested in, what I'm studying a lot, is trying to identify the factors that laid the groundwork for a team to be successful with AI.
Hmm.
When I look at the data and try to find the correlations, there's actually very few things that predict a team's success with AI. One thing that does predict their success is having really strong reliability or kind of platform engineering practices, but that isn't necessarily across the board. I'm very skeptical. Now I work at AWS, which is a vendor, and I was neutral for a long time working at DX. That doesn't sell necessarily we don't sell models. We don't sell AI solutions. We have AI in the product. But Anthropic has an interest in their marketing is going to reinforce what they're trying to sell you the
Of
same way
course.
that AWS's does about the cloud, the same way that Microsoft's does, and the same way that, your podcast spots are going to say, listen to my podcast. It's the
Mhm.
best thing. Of course, when people truly believe that what they're selling is going to help their end user, they're going to frame it in the best light possible. But it is really hard to detach. Is it Anthropic is hiring the best people? Do they have some secret formula? Is it something else? It's hard to kind of identify that. And I think we haven't yet had AI in teams long enough to really know
Mm.
what the factors are that allow a team to be really successful and ones that allow the teams to kind of fumble and be led astray with
Yeah.
AI.
Do you think we need other measurements than before?
I think that we were not measuring very well before.
Yeah, I
So
mean, we talked about lines of code, right? And I was just
yeah,
about this clause asking you, what does that mean?
yeah. I think that is a really good question about whether or not we need new metrics with AI, and I get asked this question, maybe not daily, but definitely weekly. Um, I think that, we're sitting here in the center of this, like, world that's sort of exploding and changing every day, and it feels like there's so much change, and of course, then it follows that the metrics would need to change. Um, there's a lot of companies and a lot of leaders that come to me and ask me about measuring AI, and when I look at their metrics, it turns out they weren't doing a great job of measuring efficiency and performance before AI. And
Mm.
AI just amplifies everything. It amplifies the good and it amplifies the bad. And so if it wasn't a practice that was really nailed down before, it's even harder with AI. So my short answer is uh, not necessarily. I don't think that we need new metrics, but I think that we do need to strengthen our discipline in how we measure performance and do that in a very comprehensive and
Yeah.
rigorous way, which many companies weren't doing before, because it is really hard. Not
Especially
impossible, but hard.
especially when it comes to how much money are we spending on tokens as well,
Yeah.
because that
Yeah.
could get out of hand really fast. So
So
from what I've heard.
we're in Berlin right now. Of course, I feel like I always hesitate to bring up very topical, time-sensitive things in conversations like this. But with AI, everything is outdated, so you should know that we're recording this at a certain time. So if you're listening to this like a year from now, that everything's probably changed. But I was preparing for my keynote at We Are Developers, which is happening tomorrow, and from January until now, so 6.5 months of data, just with looking at Claude usage, 300% increase in token spend per developer per month across a data set of about 22,000 engineers from Jellyfish Research, which is
without us being able to really tell whether the output is worth it.
Yeah, with a lot of difficulty to connect the dots. So certainly in pockets, we can connect the dots of, hey, that thing got to market faster and that was worth X million dollars or euros. Or, we fixed that bug that saved us, X hours of downtime, which would have violated our SLAs, and we can think about it in terms of cost avoidance or profit. But it's really difficult to map the ROI. But what's not difficult is doing a token leaderboard or trying to calculate tokens per PR or doing a lot of these other kind of financial calculations that are very surface level, but don't actually complete the story, because truthfully, not a lot of organizations have been able to fully draw that line from AI use all the way to impact.
When I see token leaderboards, to me, it's always fun. It's a playful thing to do, but I never really considered it an actual metric or actually something that you would actually need within a management round and discuss a token leaderboard. It was more like a gamified thing of like playing with this new toy that we're having.
Yeah. Token leaderboards are very enticing because outcomes follow output, right? And so we can't have impact without adoption, which is a reasonable thing to think on the surface. Like, yes, we want adoption. We can only get the impact if we have adoption. And so we want to incentivize people to participate and to use the tool. And so let's introduce something that makes it fun, makes it competitive. But measuring any engineering KPI or metric on an individual level is a huge red flag. I'll plant that down. It's a red flag. And the token leaderboards, I think, even the ones that had great intention, like there's a story of Farhan from Shopify putting a token leaderboard, and so people could see him using AI, because at first some developers were quite apprehensive about spending money because it's not cheap, and it definitely wasn't cheap back in the end of 2024, early 2025 either. So token leaderboards could normalize, yes, it's okay to spend. Look, your executives are doing it, your leaders are doing it. This is fine, but it needs to have an end date.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where we found now companies that still have these token leaderboards, it's leading to some very harmful practices and incentivizing kind of the wrong behavior.
So maybe in the very early stage of adoption, you would say, it's okay, let's make it a little bit easier for people to spend, lower the bar. But then once the company gets more mature with AI, probably want to get rid of them.
Yeah. I think that's it's very nuanced. And I think that's one of the things that's very difficult when I'm asked for general guidance is the nuance gets lost. And I think token leaderboards are a great example of that, because they can have some very good applications for companies in certain stages of adoption. But once they get past that, then they start to become neutral to harmful, I would say.
Yeah. Especially as like no product out there, or none that I've seen, is being done by just one developer spending a bunch of tokens. It's always like a group of people. It's always like a value creating chain of events that is happening.
Yeah.
So just saying, oh, Max is on top of the leaderboard, so we must be performing really well as a company.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, this is taking us all the way back. As you said, lines of code, like we identified already back in the 70s and 80s that lines of code was a poor metric, because it's just a volume and activity metric. It doesn't have any direct connection with an outcome.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'll talk about possession time in football and how a lot of us have this sort of feeling that, well, the team that controls the ball is going to control the score and control the match. And that follows. It's the same thinking that adoption equals impact, or impact can only follow adoption. Yeah. But there's so many other factors that make that untrue. And when we oversimplify and look at just one dimension, we end up getting ourselves into trouble. So, Germany
Yeah,
losing to Paraguay,
it only hurts a little.
it only hurts a little, and I'm very sorry for your loss, and
It's
I hope you
okay.
get over it.
It's
Yeah.
okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
you already mentioned that we probably don't need that many new measurements, but maybe more discipline in actually measuring. What would a good set of measurements look like when it comes to engineering org performances?
Yeah. I'm going to give some very general advice, and then we can kind of apply that framework into different scenarios. So, generally speaking, we want to make sure that our metrics have, first of all, that they're metrics plural. So not just one number. I think we've been in search of this one number that's going to tell me if my team is productive for decades, and it just doesn't exist because, like you said, it's a team sport. So many metrics, different kinds of metrics: qualitative, quantitative, self-reported, workflow metrics that are collected from the system. All different kinds of metrics, and we also want ones that are holding each other in tension. So if you think like a spider web, we might have number of pull requests per engineer over here, but it's being pulled on by quality, change failure rate over here, which is being pulled on by developer experience or business impact or cycle time, length of code review time, so that we can't over optimize for one without the whole web falling apart. And then lastly, what I would say is that these metrics should be tied to a decision, and they shouldn't just be out of curiosity, because as soon as a leader or an organization puts a metric on a dashboard, even if you say, oh, we're just going to be looking at it, there is incentive, implicit incentive or explicit incentive, and it's going to change behavior of the teams. And so we have to be really careful about what the story is around the metrics and how they're being presented.
So we shouldn't create a live dashboard. It should always be some type of effort that we put in to create the status quo.
Yeah, I think thinking about metrics as a product is a really good way to think about this. So if you were to bring a product to market, you would go out and talk to your target customers and users and ask them what their problems are and figure out what was the thing you needed to build in order to solve their problems. The same thing is true for a metrics dashboard. It is a product that is helping your end users, which are your managers, your executives, your developers, who all have different problem sets, make a decision, optimize, change their planning for next cycle, build something new. And also, these are different groups with different problems, and it's reasonable to have different sets of metrics for everybody. I think a CFO is not going to be interested in CI wait time, unless you're spending a ton of money on scaling your CI infrastructure, which maybe you need to do. But so thinking about metrics kind of as a product that serve a purpose is a really good way to start. That's a good starting position, just to make sure that we're not plastering every single pretty number on a sparkly dashboard for curiosity's sake, just because we have it.
Okay. Are there any metrics that, in your experience from your professional career, that could be harmful or not worth measuring, or even maybe put people on the wrong path?
So many. I think measuring at the individual level is, again, red flag. We don't want to have individual level metrics. So anything that's like a token leaderboard, commits per engineer, PR stack ranking, we don't want to do that. I think in some circumstances, when we're talking about performance management, there might be a nuanced approach that might be appropriate, but generally speaking, for engineering team performance, we don't want to do that. I think the challenge of throughput and velocity metrics, like story points closed or PRs per engineer, is that when we don't balance it with maintainability, developer experience, quality, we can get off the rails pretty fast, because then we're just churning out more.
Yeah.
And I said before, we've got about 17 times as much code being written now. When we look down the line, though, it's only resulting in engineers releasing maybe about 20% more. So where's all that code going is the big question. And that's the kind of, I don't want to call it a perverse incentive, having it velocity or number of PRs or commits tracked, but that's not what we're going for, right? We're hoping to write more code so that we can deliver more value to our customers and our users, not that it just gets rewritten by the agent every single cycle, which is what's happening in quite a lot of teams right now.
I mean, we've been talking about different metrics that people could bring up, but for my professional career, I work with a lot of like small and medium-sized companies
Mhm.
who didn't really start measuring something at all, or maybe
Mhm.
they only count like story points, or they count like how many features did we crank out last quarter. What would be like the base level stuff that organizations would need to do in order to, once they want to make a management decision,
Mhm.
to be able to pull up the right data and make the right dashboard in order to make a really good decision?
Mhm. I mean, the best time to start measuring is yesterday.
Probably.
But a lot of organizations put it off because they feel, especially in that small,
Mm,
medium company, maybe even startup, they think, oh, we need a commercial tool or like
yeah.
a SaaS solution, or we need to spend all of this time on data engineering and setting up all these data pipelines. You can get so far with self-reported data, um, which is collecting data through a survey. But survey doesn't just mean, how do you feel? Do you like this? Are you feeling happy or sad?
Mm,
You can ask like, hey, how many PRs did you close last week? And you can just look it up. I mean, it's not the most efficient thing, and eventually that you're going to want to scale that, but you
mhm,
can get a tremendous amount of data just from a self-reported survey. If you Google my name and survey template, you're going to come up with survey templates that do exactly this, that have a very balanced approach to measuring developer experience, quality, speed, and then also business impact, like innovation time, across a variety of different metrics. But it's all self-reported. And so it might be a qualitative, purely kind of subjective answer, like, how confident are you that when you push something to production, it's not going
mhm.
to break? Um,
And you put that on a certain scale, and
yeah, yeah, and then we can do some standard calculations, like a top 2 box score. You can look at different kinds of averages, um, and then when you have all that data together, you can actually figure out like, "Oh, you know what? We've been shipping a lot of source code,
mm,
but all of our developers are saying that they don't feel very confident that when they merge something or ship it to production, that it's not gonna break. This is concerning. What do we need to do about that?" And I think the last thing I would emphasize about that is that these metrics are not answers, they are questions. So we can't expect any metrics dashboard to give us the answer about something, but we can expect it to help us ask a better question and then dig deeper and really try to figure out what the root cause is and work backward from the result that we're trying to get.
w- if you had the chance to give every CTO out there one advice and just plant it into their little brains
Mm.
remotely for the crazy times that we're having now,
Mhm.
what would that be?
Know what you're trying to do with AI.
How come?
Just know what you're trying to do. One of the things, and I don't I if I'm about to say something, and if you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh, she's calling me out," I really don't mean it in a bad way, and I'm on your team. I'm here to support you. I often go into executive meetings or meetings with engineering leaders, and I say, "Well, what was the point? What's the problem that you're solving by bringing AI into your organization?" And we sit in silence for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
When everybody's doing it and we assume
Everybody's
we can
doing
get
it.
faster
Yeah,
and maybe
and
be
that's usually the
cheaper.
answer that comes back is like, "Well, to increase velocity,
Mm,
to increase our productivity." And then my next question is like, well, what is productivity? Because a small to medium company might not have, they don't have time. If they're a startup, they
mm,
might have some venture capital funding, and maybe that time versus money balance is different for them. And
mhm.
so they're really finding a lot of value with increasing their time to, or decreasing time to market, increasing the rate at which they can test ideas and find product market fit. But we might have other things like utilities, pharmaceuticals that aren't actually that concerned with speed, but they are very concerned about quality
Yeah.
and rework. And so they might bring in AI for a very, very different reason. They have completely different business objectives. But it's often the case, I find that engineering leaders and CTOs don't think about, where are the bottlenecks in the system? What's the problem with the system that I'm
Mhm,
hoping AI can solve? And so if we just, I call it the spray and pray, like we just kind of like throw it out there and we hope for the best,
mhm.
that's not a strategy. But if a CTO can come to me and say, you know what, we are trying to modernize these 5 Perl applications and it was forecasted to take like 7 years. And we're going to try to do that now in 2 years instead.
Mhm.
So, that's going to make this timeline different. And also our, on-call has been extremely it's just full of toil, and we want to increase the quality. And so those are the two things that we're going to use with AI, and all of our AI focus is aligned to modernization and migration and quality increase. Now, that is a company that is probably going to be doing some great things with AI sooner than later, because they're not just chasing.
Yeah, they have a clear goal.
They have a clear goal. And so that is my one piece of advice for CTOs is answer the question, what are you doing with AI? What's the purpose of it? Why are you bringing it into your organization? And if you can't answer that, don't feel bad, because there's so much pressure right now. I really understand. But that is the key to getting the results that you want, is knowing what you're after.
All right. If people want to maybe reach out, have some questions, or maybe learn a little bit more from you, what would be a good way to reach out?
Find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Laura Tacho in the world. I might be. So
you are.
I actually think that I am, which is pretty cool. So find me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message there. I am blogging, actually not very frequently anymore, but I do kind of post my thoughts at least once a week. You'll get something new from me on LinkedIn about what I'm observing in the industry, and something hopefully that can help leaders orient themselves in this very, very fast changing world.
All right. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for bearing with us through this episode. Now is a good time to open up the show notes and check out the links provided. Reach out to Laura. Laura, thank you so much for being here. Wish you all the best for your talk tomorrow. And talk to you all pretty soon.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Bye.